Am I wrong for not giving my sister the wedding gift she wanted because of how she treated my girlfriend? My girlfriend Naomi and I have been together for over a decade. My younger sister Sarah and my girlfriend have never been super close but are friendly when we get together. Or I guess they were. When Sarah was in high school, Naomi helped her out with some personal things. Sarah got married a few days ago. When Sarah announced her engagement to the family, she asked Naomi to be a bridesmaid, which surprised us a little, but Naomi was very excited because she's never gotten to do it before and probably won't have the chance again. I want to be clear, there was no suggestion from either of us that Sarah should ask her. It was about 2 seconds after she told us that she was engaged. She said that she was so grateful to Naomi for the help when she was younger, and Naomi was very touched. A few weeks later, Sarah posted her bridesmaid proposal brunch. Naomi wasn't there. Sarah never said it to either of our faces directly, but clearly she changed her mind. Naomi was hurt, but said she understood because she hadn't expected the ask anyway. That would have been fine, but then a few months later, Sarah asked Naomi to go to the bachelorette party and to also come get ready the day of the wedding with her friends and bridesmaids. Same thing. Naomi says yes and even helped her find a good place to go and a rental. A month and a half before the wedding, I'm talking to my mom on the phone when she mentions that Sarah's at her bachelorette. No mention of Naomi. Now I'm kind of pissed because Naomi was clearly very hurt at 2 invites and then being sort of ghosted. A week before the wedding, Naomi texted Sarah and asked about getting ready and hair and makeup. And Sarah responds acting confused and basically tells her nicely to just come with me. Then I was really pissed. Sarah wanted this really expensive baking mixer thing for a long time and I got it for her wedding gift. My mom had ruined the surprise so she expected it. But after everything with Naomi, I felt like being petty and I cut her a check instead and returned the mixer. A few days after the wedding, Sarah texted me saying, I don't know how to ask this, but what happened to the mixer? And I responded, I didn't know how to ask, but what happened to treating my girlfriend like a freaking human being? Now my brother and my new brother-in-law and my mom are all texting me saying, what the and that I'm ruining her happy time. Naomi, for her part, says I probably shouldn't have done that, but she feels a little vindicated. So, am I the asshole?
Today I messed up by changing my name to a porn star's. Okay, so I have a weird first name. I like it well enough, but I've spent a good chunk of my childhood explaining pronunciation and spelling. I had similar problems with my maiden name and considered changing one or both for the sake of simplicity. Enter my husband. He has a lovely, easy to spell, very common last name. So when he proposed, I decided to take it. I figured, hey, I get a name that's easier to spell and pronounce. Plus, it meant a lot to him and I thought it would be a nice romantic gesture. And at first, it was. Now, leading up to our wedding, I was completing my PhD and working on entering the job market. Once we were married and the name change became official, I began to modify my CV and my more general use resume. I was newly married, finishing my dissertation, and getting ready for my career. And now, at least half of my name wouldn't make the hiring coordinator's eyes cross. Fast forward to a perfectly innocent presentation on job hunting. The presenter suggests the old trick of Googling yourself to check your web presence for any old, embarrassing relics from social media. I realized that I had never Googled my name, and smiled as I popped open the new search tab on my phone. Imagine my horror as I sat in the crowd of my peers, and the first thing to pop up was a thumbnail of a woman with 2 D's in her mouth. I figured it was a fluke, or an advertisement, and scrolled hurriedly. But to my growing dismay, I found page after page of porn websites, cam sites, and OF, and forums, all tied back to my brilliant new name. Now, this presented a long-term problem. Resumes don't generally include a photo. I had to find a way to convey to potential employers that I was an entirely separate person from this taller, admittedly far more attractive woman. I definitely did not intend to insist on constantly being called doctor or including my credentials wherever I put my name. Changing my name again would require a whole court proceeding, goodness knows how much money, and another visit to the dreaded Social Security office. In addition to employment though, I had a more immediate familial issue. My husband is Catholic, but he has an earthy sense of humor and would laugh this off. They're kind, pious, and a little sheltered. They're also very proud in-laws who have Googled me every time I appeared in the completely boring campus newspaper. I knew they would understand, but I had to either allow them to stumble blindly into a literal hurricane of dicks and pregnancy fetish material, or warn them as kindly as I could. Needless to say, our next visit was profoundly awkward. Now, I insist on using my middle initial in professional settings. I'm rather particular about it. My students have been kind enough to comply, though sometimes 1 or 2 giggle when I show up on the first day. More troublingly, I also get the occasional disappointed look.
My sister Hulk smashed my graduation cake. Some people ask me for the graduation story I talked about in my last post, and as I am sick and bored out of my mind, I will tell you the story. It was the day I delivered my thesis and presented it. A German tradition is that once you complete your PhD, you get one of those black graduation caps that have pictures, memes, and little toys that describe you best glued on them. So I also got that, and I absolutely loved it. One of the things glued on my cap were gummy worms because I would eat them constantly. We had booked a little hall in the university to celebrate. My fiance and friends had decorated it, provided coffee, snacks, drinks, etc. Also, my fiance handcrafted a beautiful cake, one of those that have the self-made marshmallow fondant and a color gradient that went from yellow to pink. Really beautiful cake. So eventually, after snacking, talking, and even dancing a bit, it was time for the speeches. My friends and my boss said how proud they were, etc., and then came my fiance. He talked about all of my accomplishments in my life up to this point. At this point, my sister absolutely lost it. I mean, she screamed and cried like I had hurt her cat. My mom was giving my boyfriend signs to stop his speech and went running towards my sister. My father was already kneeling beside her, calming her down. Everybody was kind of lost at this point. My mom came up to me and asked me to do a little speech mentioning the accomplishments of my sister and all that. I asked why. My mom told me about her being rejected from her master's program and that was the reason for her breakdown. I suppose I looked annoyed because my mom snapped and said, "You know what, forget it." She then told my dad, who had managed to calm my sister down, to take her home. My dad took her by the arm and they started to walk out. And holy hell, as my sister noticed the cake, she lost it again, crying like a maniac, and then she smashed my effing cake. Everyone went silent. My dad dragged my sister out with so much as apologizing. My mom just muttered. Then I started crying. My friends and fiance went to cheer me up, but my mom was texting dad to see if my sister was all right. She followed me to the bathroom and reprimanded me for not being attentive when I saw my sister crying. I told her that I was hurt by everything that had happened. My mom just said that I had to understand my little sister because it was a hard time for her and that she didn't have a fancy graduation like me. She then left. We tried to keep the celebration going, but it was not really possible. We went home early. When I went to look for my cap, I found that the gummy worm package that was glued to it had been ripped out. As I later found out, that was my sister's doing because she was craving gummy worms. This one is titled, "My Family is Pressuring Me to Give My 28 Female Sister, 23 Female, my wedding venue because she needs it more because she is pregnant." My fiance and I have been together for 8 years and engaged for 3. I was doing my PhD program and was juggling planning the wedding. My fiance took much of that work, but it was perfect because our dream venue was booked until after graduation. So what we did is book our dream venue 3 years in advance. It is a really beautiful venue. The only slot we got was September of this year. My sister got engaged a few months ago to her fiance. They were planning on having a spring wedding next year. They had no venue lined up, but had a few vendors lined up as well as a set date. Yesterday, our parents invited us and our significant others to a family barbecue where my sister announced to our extended family that she is expecting. Everyone was so happy for her and my brother-in-law, who is a great guy. My nan asked my sister if the wedding was still on the set date or if they were going to wait because of the baby. She said no, that she hoped to move it to September. We don't have many out-of-town guests, so they could attend both weddings no problem. Nan was happy and asked sister if she needed help planning such a short-notice wedding. My sister then turned around and said, "That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I was really hoping we could take your venue. I really cannot stress myself too much with planning a wedding while going to maternity classes, and I think it's so beautiful. It would really mean a lot to me." It went silent, but everyone was looking at me expecting me to say, "Yes, of course, anything for my little sister." My brother-in-law looked very uncomfortable and told her that they had talked about this and that it was not okay to put me on the spot. But my sister just said, "Don't be like that. My sister wants to do what's best for me, so it's no big deal, right?" I just said, "Well, it kind of is. I don't know. I have my heart really set on the venue." Cue my sister crying. She stormed off. Nan told me that I was being selfish because she needed the venue more than I did. I tried to defend myself and my mother said, "You waited 3 years. Would it have killed you to wait a few more months? When has your sister ever asked you for something?" A few comments later, my fiance got really mad and we left. My sister called me crying and said that it was unfair that I always get what I want and that I could have done this one thing for her. Dad said, "It is just a venue and what matters is the person who you are marrying." He is kind of right, but we have been planning for so long. My fiance is furious with my family and doesn't even want my sister to come. Now my family is threatening not to come because I am being selfish and my sister needs it more than me because having a baby is too stressful. My brother-in-law called me and apologized for the inconvenience. He told me he had discussed it with my sister and she told him that she would not ask. He is properly mad with her now and warned me that my sister is blaming me for potentially ruining our marriage. My father has sent me about 5 texts along the lines of, "I hope you're happy your sister hadn't stopped crying since yesterday," and so on and so on. My fiance and I have decided to boot my sister from the bridal party and replace her with my aunt, who is the only family member that took my side. We have not decided whether or not we will invite my family as a whole. Furthermore, my mom took it upon herself to tell on us. She called her fiance's parents and told them it would be best if my sister gets it because she is pregnant and pre-eclampsia runs in the family. My future father-in-law told them to F off and basically ripped my mom a new one for expecting something so ridiculous and that they were going to lose me if they kept playing favorites. So my mom is now crying too and saying that my father-in-law is an ass. This is just getting so pathetic. It seems straight out of a bad soap opera. My in-laws are driving to us currently with some supper and wine and basically told me not to worry and that no matter what happens, they will be my safety net. I cried of happiness. So, it hasn't been that long, but this post blew the hell up. I was expecting only a few answers, but the support was overwhelming. What boggled my mind is that this story flooded over to mainstream media. But let's get to the story. So since this went viral, a lot happened. My sister saw the story while browsing on her Reddit account. She lost her mind. She accused me of painting her like a loony and misinterpreting facts. My sister got wind of the situation due to various media outlets and then went on Reddit. She said that I was being unfair, that she is family, and that she asked it nicely because she loves me. Which she also underlines the fact that the opinion of internet strangers doesn't count because family is more important, and I should focus on making my family happy. The only text I sent back was this: I am sorry that you perceived it that way. I did not in any way distort what happened. As you might notice, I didn't describe your tone, nor exaggerated anything. Perhaps you have that night differently in your mind than I do, but I digress. I am sick and tired of bending to your will. My whole life, I have been your servant and your doormat. Remember all the birthdays I had to share with you because you would throw a tantrum because you didn't get presents? Or when you cried so that I would fill out job applications for you? But the thing that has hurt me the most till now is when you ruined my graduation. I am done. I admit that I also spoiled you, but I will not any longer. If you want to marry so bad before your baby is born, then you could look at Hotel X that offers last-minute weddings. I've spent too much time planning my wedding to gift it to you. And if you want to ruin our relationship over this, then go ahead. I will sleep sound and safe knowing that it wasn't my fault. She only sent me a, wow, you must love me so very much, and blocked me. She unblocked me this morning to send me this, insinuating that she had contacted my wedding planner and was just taking my venue. Wedding planner. Hello, dear. I got the message from your mother and will proceed with the rebooking of the venue on the spot. However, this will have extra costs as we will have to change the names on the contract. Please come by my office tomorrow so we can sign the new contract. Sister. That's great. I'll be there at 9. My parents haven't actually written to me since the thing with my father-in-law. My older brother, yes, I have an older brother, but he lives in another city and wasn't at the barbecue. That's why I didn't mention him. Plus, he initially could not come to the wedding because of work and has changed his plans after hearing about all the story. Contacted me and wanted to know what happened because he got a weird story from our mom and dad. Our mom had told him that I had offered prior to the barbecue to give up the venue to my sister and that I humiliated her in front of our family. Oh, victimization 101? No. I told him what really happened and he had no problem believing me. We talked a lot about our parents' behavior and he confessed that him moving was partly due to our parents being, and I quote, shitheads to us. He told me that mom had gotten wind from the post and was mad at me for betraying my family. I haven't written my parents what so many of you advise me to say because I have come to terms with the fact that they love my sister more than me, if they love me at all. Wedding details. We sat together and put passwords with the majority of our vendors and also with the venue direct. We haven't talked to our planner yet, which is why the text of my sister worries me so much. Also, we canceled the catering that my parents paid for. So in the short term, we won't be able to get a full catering like we wanted to, but all of our friends and my fiance's family will help us prepare a buffet, and everyone is going to chip in. That will be our bachelor party. We'll have to spend more on our food now. We canceled our bachelor parties, and we will have more to spend on our food now that we canceled our bachelor parties, and we'll have a family and friends cooking session. Thank you again for helping me see how toxic my family is. I will try to sort it out. If they apologize from the bottom of their heart, they will be allowed into my wedding, but if not, then well, I still have my brother. who will be walking me down the aisle, and my aunt. We called my planner and she was actually really horrified. She told me she had never had as much as a conversation with my mother since the day we went to book the venue. She assured me that even if they were to call and say that I wanted it, I had to be present to make any changes. So we informed everyone that is working with us on our wedding, and they offered to hire security for that day at a reduced price. Finally, I'm getting around to writing an update. I'm sorry that it took so long, but I have a few updates to my life. I guess, however, that you guys are mainly here to see how my wedding played out and the aftermath with my family. After I last spoke to my parents, they did not let go of their position. I was the bad guy. I was responsible for my sister's depression and her failing relationship. It went so far that I had to block them and change my number as they were contacting me from relatives' phones and so on. It was a real bummer, especially during a time that should be so special. I was harassed by my sister and her entourage on Facebook and Instagram, so I simply deleted it. It was a mentally draining time. But my husband's family and friends and my brother helped me to get through it. I had basically cut off every family member that had given me shit for keeping my wedding date. My Nan came to my door a few days before the wedding begging to let her come. I had a long talk with Nan and she ended up apologizing even though she still failed to see the logic in switching weddings, but she did not want to pressure me and wanted to be there for me. We hugged it out, but our relationship is not back to normal yet. The bachelor party was amazing. We were cooking until dawn and everything turned out to be delicious. My husband made a beautiful 3-layered cake. Our wedding day. The morning was really good and relaxing. My bridesmaids and I got ready. We drank some Prosecco and took pictures. My dress fit perfectly and I just felt gorgeous. But then came time to leave for the ceremony. We were at the venue taking pictures with my friends and I saw the little car that my sister drives approaching the venue. Admittedly, I was shitting my pants, or well, my dress. One of my friends ran to the venue to get one of the security people that we hired. I really didn't want another Hulk smash moment at my wedding. She had been angry and crying, and as soon as she saw me, she started screaming obscenities. Apparently, I'm a filthy bee that made her fiance break up with her. She was acting possessed, and at that moment, I couldn't help but feel pity for her. A thing to explain is that in the mornings, the plants are always watered at the venue by some of these sprinkler systems. Thus, the earth was a bit muddy. The next thing happened really fast. My sister bent down to take mud and was getting ready to throw it at me and my dress when my maid of honor sprinted towards her and pushed her so that she fell with her butt into the flowers. The security officer arrived seconds later and removed her. And with that, I had enough ammunition to file for a restraining order against her. I didn't even want to file a police report at this point. I just wanted her to stay away from me. The rest of the day was just amazing. I married my best friend, the love of my life, and just my rock. My brother walked me down the aisle. We all cried at the vows. It was just spectacular. Of course, I missed my parents, but it is what it is. The celebration was very funny. My husband had studied choreography to a Taylor Swift song with his groomsmen, and the speeches could have been from a stand-up club. We left for our honeymoon, and when we came back, I decided to start looking for jobs in a different city. I didn't want to lose my friends, but I just felt like I needed a clean break. I got a new job at a university in a bigger city and we're currently in the process of moving. But maybe the biggest change is also the most cliche thing is that I am pregnant. It is a classic honeymoon baby. We haven't really told anybody now in fear of something happening, so you nice people of Reddit are the first ones to know, besides my husband and me. I'm so excited that I am tearing up just writing this. This was not something we planned for a few years, but we're ecstatic regardless. I have only heard through people in town about the rest of family. My sister is still going around telling people that I was the reason her fiance broke up with her and that I was trying to dox her or some shit. She has moved in with my parents again and refuses to work. Nan told me that the last time she saw my parents, they looked exhausted because my sister was behaving like a baby. Well, no shit. I guess their parenting is catching up with them. I can only say that I'm really happy right now. It hurts having lost family, but at the end of the day, cutting out toxic people is the best I could do. I now have a husband and a honeymoon baby on the way. My very own family. Oh, and a shiny backbone. Thank you, Reddit, for reassuring me that I indeed was not being selfish, that my family was not in the right. Thank you so much for just writing your comments, supporting me. I even took up therapy, but I have to say I am really enjoying life. Thank you for everything.
Am I wrong for buying my son a car, but not my daughter? I, 47 male, made the promise to my two kids, Ronan, 21, and Lana, 18. I told them that if they graduate high school with above a 3.5 GPA, I would buy them a new car in addition to a graduation gift. Ronan absolutely rocked high school. He was his class valedictorian, played 3 sports, was the captain of the debate team, participated in Model UN conferences frequently, was on the student council, and volunteered extensively. He now goes to an Ivy League school with a generous scholarship. Of course, he met more than my requirement, and I bought him a nice car that he chose. Lana, on the other hand, struggled. She needed tutoring all 4 years and barely had any extracurriculars. I'd never say this to her face, but I'm just relieved that she graduated at all. I'm proud of her for working so hard to pass her classes, but she mostly got D's and C's and plans on going to our local community college that basically takes anyone. Unfortunately, she didn't get a high enough GPA to meet my requirements. I did get her a nice graduation gift, but it wasn't nearly as expensive as Ronan's car. When the end of school year rolled around, Lana started showing me different used cars that she would like. I assumed she was planning on buying one for herself and wanted my advice. So I worked with her to find one in good condition at a fair price, and she finally picked one out. Trouble came about 2 weeks after she made a decision about her car. She came to me and asked, "Whatever happened to the car I wanted?" I was confused and said, "I don't know. Did you buy it?" From there, we both became more and more incredulous until it came out that she had expected me to buy the car for her. Apparently, for years, she had assumed that my promise to buy her a new car if she got a certain GPA meant that I would buy her a used car regardless of her academic accomplishments. She accused me of favoritism and misogyny, and said if Ronan had failed school, her words, like she had, I would have still bought him a car because he's my favorite and also a boy. That is not and was never the case. If she had just asked, I would have made this clear to her. Lana went to the rest of the family with some sob story about favoritism, and now, nearly a month later, my sister, brother, and parents have all chipped in to get Lana a used car. Everyone who chipped in has been very distant to me and Ronan. I've tried to explain myself, but no one will give me the time of day. Ronan is the only one who doesn't think I'm misogynistic and a terrible father. So, am I the asshole?
Your ex tells you to move out while she's on a work trip because the guy she cheated on you with is moving in. You get very creative when moving out. I did this to an ex who asked me to move out while she was on a work trip and told me she was coming back with her new boyfriend. We were still together when she left. I got these little noisemakers, battery-powered ones the size of a quarter that emit sounds at just the right volume that you aren't sure if you really heard it. So quiet that 2 people could be sitting in an average-sized room, and while one can barely hear it, the other wouldn't hear a thing. They last ages and fit perfectly in light fixtures and in wall outlets. I got a box of 20 for them for like $100 on eBay and got so creative all over the house, her car. I even hid them in a boat her father got her. Rich family, and she grew up sailing. Now these little bastards make a noise at a completely random interval. Could be minutes, could be hours, could take the whole day off. They cycle noises like children laughing, a dying breath as they call it, a whistle, scratching noises, some other ones I can't remember, but you get the idea. It was so unpredictable, it was near impossible for someone to just figure it out. Months go by. I get a new place, get my life back up. Now we had a few friends in common, and one of them I kept up with. They were kind of sour about how she ended things, but they had grown up together and kept up the friendship, loosely talking and catching up on occasion. I never really asked about her, but one day we got to talking and he wanted to prank some friends on a camping trip, so I told him about the noisemakers. As I'm telling him about them, he slowly starts making this face like he's gradually losing his shit. He's got this huge grin on his face and asks me. When I admit it, he starts laughing hysterically. Turns out her new boyfriend had only lasted a few months and had left telling her that he couldn't handle whatever was going on with them and their mental states. Turns out for a while they had both heard things, and sometimes only one of them would hear them, which gave the illusion that something really effed with them was going on in their heads at different times. They couldn't figure it out, and eventually he wanted out completely. And having run down all the crazy list of shit people who were hearing voices would think, ended it believing he had been infected with some brain worm the government was putting in vaccines or something like that. It was amazing. I hadn't expected to hear anything about it. I rode that train for weeks. When it went away, I got another hit of that high. She moved out, told her parents she didn't want the house and to give it to her brother or sell it. Wouldn't tell them why. I always tell people who ask about her that I hold no grudge, and don't tell them the part where I totally effed with her so bad that I overshot the got her back stage and hit the blissful state of satisfied with my work. My wife knows this story by heart because it's her favorite one to tell.
How do I tell my boyfriend, 35 male, that me, his girlfriend, 25 female, am moving to Oregon in less than a week, 1 month after I found out that he cheated on me? There's a long story to this, but I'll keep it short. My boyfriend and I haven't had the best sexual relationship. We've done it multiple times, but I could tell that he was having some issues down there the very last time we did it, which was over a year and a half ago. When I asked him about it, he said it was depression getting the best of him. So I wanted to give him space. I'm very kind, patient, empathetic, and understanding of his situation. I didn't bring it up again. I'm not the nagging type, so I let him work it out on his own, always reassuring him that I was there and he could talk to me. His grandfather died a couple years before I met him, and he lived with the guy his whole life. He was devastated. Then his mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer a year before I met him. His mother passed away in January of this year. A month ago, he had really bad abdominal pain. We went to the ER and he had a perforated bowel. Instantly rushed him off to surgery. He gave me his phone, wallet, etc. A year ago, I had a strange gut feeling to go through his phone and see what he was doing. He was being very secretive and distant with his phone, but I gaslit myself and told myself that I was being crazy, so I never actually went through it. While he's under for the emergency surgery, I looked through his phone and found that he had been cheating on me for a year. He was sexting, meeting, and having sex with his chick. She was well aware of the fact that he had a girlfriend too. I was devastated. Now a month after the surgery, I've been taking care of him hand and foot, paying his bills, taking care of our animals, chores, etc. Trying to make things work, but I just can't. He's more than capable enough to go back to work and take care of himself. But I've put my 2 weeks in and I'm leaving to Oregon in 4 days. I haven't told him that I'm leaving. How do I tell him that I'm blowing this popsicle stand?
My fat best friend refuses to wear clothes that fit her. Now she's mad that I called her out. Me and my best friend have been besties for over 2 years. We are the kind that nap together, eat together, share clothes, all that. Anyway, we both are a little over 5 feet tall, and at the time we met both were roughly 125 pounds. So we were skinny and went out a lot and wore skimpy clothes. Fast forward to the past 6 months. We both randomly started gaining weight. It was sudden. The change was drastic and rapid. I've accepted it. I don't mind being in large clothes. But here's the problem, she does mind being large. She still wears her size small clothes, underwear, and bras that don't clip shut. If you are thinking, is it that bad? Yes. It's that bad. She is in such deep denial that we're fat. I prefer the term juicy. She embarrassed me at my 6-year-old's football game last week because she came to this children's football game in a size small black cocktail dress. Was expecting positive attention? If so, she was out of her mind. She looked like a walking sausage. It was so bad my son even commented on it when we got home. He said she looked like the gob goo goo glob. I don't even know what that is, but I'm certain it couldn't have been a flattering comparison. One day, she texted me and asked if I would sell her my retired rave outfits. Normally, I would have. However, raves were a relic of my skinny days. All of my clothes from back then are small or extra small. I decided to just rip off the band-aid. I told her no. You would look ridiculous. She said I was being mean. I told her that mean and realistic are not the same. I guess that wisdom nugget didn't really resonate with her because she hung up immediately. I figured she would just get over it and we would go back to how things were within the week. I was so wrong. She didn't speak to me for weeks after I shut her fantasy down. I tried to be understanding and see things from her perspective. I know that it was certainly hard for me to accept my changing body, but I just saw it as a fact of life. However, I know body image is a big struggle for a lot of women because we're given this standard of beauty that we feel we need to adhere to. I knew we were still beautiful with our curves, but she just didn't see it that way. My birthday was coming up in a few days. I decided to just suck up my pride and invite her to the party. It was just a little get-together with some of our friends at my place. Nothing crazy. I thought that maybe I could talk to her and apologize for being so harsh so that things could get back to normal. I was missing my best friend. I sent her the invite, but she didn't RSVP. I was a little annoyed and heartbroken by that, but I still had faith our relationship would recover. Fast forward again to the night of the party. We were having a good time. People were still rolling in. It was relatively early in the night. I kept getting excited whenever I heard a car in the driveway or a knock at the door. I was hoping she would just turn up. Then, she did. My mom had just surprised me with a cake 10 minutes before I heard a rapping at my door. When I opened it, I found myself standing face to face with my best friend in the same gob goo gob golob outfit she had worn to the football game. At that point I just didn't care. Whatever she wanted to wear was okay with me. As I was opening my mouth to express this to her, she walked right past me without saying a word. The small crowd that now included my mother and son was hushed. She walked over to the cake and paused like she was contemplating something heavy. I didn't say anything. Then she did the unthinkable. Everyone looked on in shock as she drove her face straight down into my happy birthday cake. My favorite food has always been chocolate fudge. When she pulled her head up, it looked like she was just in blackface. She went full Jim Crow mode. She proceeded to carve fat pig into the cake batter on her forehead. She didn't think it through, so it ended up coming out backwards for everyone that was seeing her. She started shoving all of the dishes in her mouth like a deranged cookie monster. She was spilling as much as she could on purpose. She did all of this without saying a word. I was too shocked to express anything. Finally, my mom stepped in to stop the nonsense. She tried to calm my friend down, but my friend wasn't having that. She growled in my mom's face as retaliation and walked straight out of the party. It was one of the most bizarre things I had ever seen. I now believe it's deeper than just surface-level self-image issues. I still haven't given up on her, but I think she needs professional help. What can I do to rectify my relationship with her?